Hey there, Business Freedom Podcast listeners. You all are in for a treat today. I've got Cristina Edelstein or Stein.
Hello,
I always pronounce
Edelstein.
Edelstein-Skurat in the house out of Minneapolis. And Cristina, we've known each other, I guess, for like probably 5 years now. And just to watch your
Yep.
journey in real estate and business building and the hustle and energy you bring to your business is like unprecedented. We were like lucky enough to get you on stage at one of our intensive workshops when I think you were 10 months pregnant, and it didn't even phase you. So you are superhuman in so many ways. And why don't
I
you,
don't know about that, but
yeah, for sure you are. Why don't you start off just like a couple minutes on kind of your journey in real estate, when you got into it, what it looked like, and kind of tease everyone, give everyone the hook about how many homes you guys will sell this year.
great. Well, yeah. So I got my license towards the end of 2010. I had previously done some commercial real estate before, more on the property management side. And Kirby had been selling some homes and enough where at that point he needed someone else. And he convinced me to join him. I was skeptical because everybody knows that's the recipe to divorce. And we had just gotten married. But anyway, we ended up selling 60 houses together. The first year we worked together, and then we sold 120, and then it's just been growth ever since then, varying degrees as we figure out kind of our formula and growing a team and things like that. So this year we are officially at 446 closings. Our goal is 450, so there's still a shot at those last four. We're 99% there, which is pretty exciting. But it's definitely been a journey to kind of figure out how to get there and not have us personally be the ones that are the producers anymore.
Yeah,
So,
awesome. So let's go back to, well, I've got to ask you because I ask everyone, are you prepared to share the good, the bad, and the ugly about your business growth journey?
I don't roll any other way, so I don't really know how to do anything but that. So I would say yes.
Yeah. And the reason I've actually like discontinued a call because I just knew the person wasn't going to be authentic. So, I think there's a lot to be said for sharing the stuff we don't do right. So I appreciate that.
For
Um,
sure.
let's go back to like, the early phases of growth in a business. 85% of our industry doesn't even have an assistant. So
Hmm.
let's go back to what it looked like when you came into the picture. Kirby, I think, only sold like a home a year before you even joined him, right? So he was not
No,
really.
I saw like 24, 27 a year. Yeah. So more than the average, but yeah, nothing like what we're doing together today. So.
Yeah. So take us back to that. The first step to kind of join forces. I think you had like a licensed assistant at the time. Kind
No,
of.
I was the assistant. I became the assistant. And then I was like showing all the houses and converting buyers. And he was negotiating short sales. Like we were just taking the scraps. It was bottom of the market in the Twin Cities. So it's like any scraps thrown on our side. It's like, you want me to show you $40,000 homes in North Minneapolis that just, have criminals running out of them out the broken windows they just broke in? Sure, I'll go show you anything. No joke. I look back on it, I'm like, the thing I did were really dangerous for, any female really to do. And so in the dark, but we had to make ends meet and we had to work and just, we're both natural hustlers. And, I think it came from the belief that if anybody wants to buy or sell a home, they deserve to, even if they're not always the most attractive candidate or the highest price point or the easiest transaction. I think when you start kind of with that mentality, you really can only go up from there. And so now we're super appreciative. Like I just negotiated, a deal over $1 million. I would never have dreamed that I could have had things like that. That's not our average price point in the Twin Cities, that's definitely on the high end. So, but I will treat the same people across the board. In fact, that client, about 4 years ago, when he first called me, was calling about a $90,000 condo. And I just gave him the red carpet, and this is their fifth transaction with me, and they've reserved people or referred people to me. So I think it's kind of an example of how if you always treat people the same no matter what and treat them with your best care, you just never know where it can go.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's so much I want to get to, but I want to touch on when you got into real estate. How many children did you have in 2010?
Zero.
Zero.
We were barely 1 year married. Not really thinking quite yet about that, but it was, you know, down the line in the future. So major hustle through 2011. At the end of 2011 is when we did hire our first assistant. That was all we had. And then when I got pregnant in 2012, I was showing about 100 homes a month, you know, at least. And we didn't care, you know, when you're when you don't have children, you can come home and eat dinner at 8 or 8 down the road, and it doesn't really matter as much. But, you know, as I got more and more pregnant, we realized we needed that. And Kirby had heard about showing agents, and he convinced me that we should hire our first one. But that was like mind blowing back then, because nobody was doing it. It was very, very, like, you don't pass off your clients and things like that. But we found a perfect match to me in that. And I just started learning how to communicate the value of that to my clients. And the transition was actually shockingly easier than I thought it was going to be. I think when you step away from the self-glorified concept that you're the only one that can take care of people. And then I realized, hey, like my first showing, my agent is going to be able to be more relaxed and flexible at the showings than I am, especially once I did have the baby. Like, I need to be home. I can't pump every single time. And like, you know, that level of stress, and more it became my mentality, to the point where across our team, that's what we've developed now. We have 4 dedicated showing agents and a 5th one that is always like a buyer agent in training. And they always learn from the get-go the script that, you know, buyer, you're going to get the very best care with me as the expert. So I'm always available to negotiate, do the market analysis, that kind of stuff for you, look for the right properties. But my showing agent they're always completely available to work around your schedule. It's a competitive market. Getting you in there works really well. And I'm always the one that's your agent throughout the whole process. That partnership works super well. And like, we get raving reviews on it. So as long as we're always maintaining it, the client feels extremely well cared for. And that's a huge encouragement I would have after some assistant to take care of paperwork would be a showing agent to really help kind of get to the next level in production without burning out.
And so talk about, so 2011, 12, the first child. How many children do you have now?
We just had our 4th. She's not quite 4 months old. So yeah, we've had basically 4 kids in 5.5 years.
Yeah. So needless to say, super busy, and you kind of keep so gracious through all of it and continue to work and all of that. Talk about like the amount of production you took on, even with showing agents, the amount of production you were able to take on, and then what the process looked like to kind of train others to step up and sort of assume some of that production, the whole psychology of production to business ownership. Let's talk that through.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kirby was always readier than I was, but even for him, it took an initial shift. But once he made it, he was like, I just want to be a business owner and build businesses. And I love selling. I love people, and I love challenges, and I love figuring out problems. And without bragging, like, I'm good at selling. And so it was natural, and I sold a lot, and it was great. And I love the challenge of every time being able to figure out how to get someone to believe that we were the best for them and to do that for them. But I think as you get more children and as you start to realize, man, for me, it was really the children. Like, I want to be a good mom. I want to be a great mom, a stellar mom. And I want to be a working mom. And I want to show them that that's a really successful way of being able to do life too, and still be a very present, loving mother. But when you have sales, it's constantly in your daily thing and in your daily life. So there was a slow transition for me of being able to let go of one side of my passions, which is selling, and really get in touch with a different side of my passions that I don't think I mean, it's not like anybody wakes up and is like, I want to manage people, or I want to train people. You know, it's not like that's like what you like dream of when you're 6, right? And people ask you, what do you want to do when you grow up? So, but I think I've found that is something that I really thrive in and I really enjoy. I love developing people. It's really, I'm using my same skill set just in a different way. And instead of just cranking out 150 people a year in sales, now I'm able to invest deeply in agents. And granted, not all of them stay. That's a whole different side thing of, like, you know, agent turnover and all that. And I give my heart to people. So that makes it really hard when there's a separation of agents that don't stay on the team for whether it's theirs or our reasons or whatever. Usually it's mutual. But I have had to learn that, like, how do I give my whole heart and soul to someone in helping them succeed with us, even though there's no guarantee that they're going to stay. And that's something I would say I'm currently in the process of. I have feelings. I'm a human being, you know, but I've learned a lot. And I know there's a huge team owner out there once, and I said, how do you deal with when people like leave you? You've given them so much. And he just said, well, I get my effing feelings hurt, you know? and to keep it PC. But it actually really resonated with me because it's like, I think you try to shut down that emotion and try to stay logical, but it's like, well, people. So I think sometimes, like now I've learned to give myself like the 24 to 48 hours of suck is what we call it. And it's true. If you just let yourself kind of feel it, go through it, feel the anger, feel the letting go, or the disappointment that somebody you gave a lot to just couldn't rise up to deliver on doing the job on a regular basis, whatever it is, gives you a lot more peace and just confidence in knowing that like it takes a lot to get really quality people that are fit for real estate sales. And you have to go through more to keep more of the right ones. But when you do that, then you're able to delegate and pass on those responsibilities to people that you can really trust. And if you don't do that and you keep a bunch of like average or below average people because you don't ever want to like have separation with people, you have a bad culture, you don't feel like confidence with passing your deals to people. And then it's like you have both. And I did that for a while where I kept like trying to build a team, but still selling a ton. And that was exhausting because it's like the emotion that it takes to develop, train, hire, recruit, manage people, and the emotion to sell, they're both extreme. And when you're carrying both of them, you're just going to crack at some point. So I'm consciously reducing the sales. I'll do 31 this year. And considering that, I think in 2015 I sold 156. That's like a massive change in 3 years, like very, very conscious to do that. Because a lot of it is just, you know, I've met with so many people and there's this like trickle of pipeline and trying to pass things off, but some of them just accidentally happen in a way. So, but I'm intentionally trying to make it basically zero other than maybe my sister. So.
That's awesome. So the first assistant, Kirby, you and one assistant back in 2012. Yep. And then what are the next key hires? So it really, I mean, really the showing agent model gave you leverage to be able to work with a bunch of clients, but not show homes 24/7. And then how do you guys migrate? Like who takes over listings? What is it? The big lesson here to me is that first of all, you gotta hustle, you know, and that's, I remember Kirby talking about it, or maybe it was you at one of the intensives, like 192 transactions or something with like 1 or 2 paid lead sources and just you, Kirby, and like 1 or 2 people. What did that year look like? I think there's so much, it was probably a busy year for you guys. There's so much to be learned from just going deep on a couple lead sources, doing whatever it takes to kind of build that momentum. Which year was that, if you remember, and what did the team look like?
I think that was probably 2013, because I think 2012, we set a goal of 100 and we sold 120. And then 2013, I think, was 192. We've always, from the get-go, like the first thing I did when I joined Kirby was develop our sphere of influence list. And I call the sphere of influence anybody that I'd ever talked to or he'd ever talked to, ever. So I stalked both of our Facebook pages for an entire year, every day, tracking who had a birthday. And then I would send them a little private message and say, hey, we've made it a goal this year to send a handwritten card to every person because we just really want to stay in touch with you, you know? And that's how I got people's numbers, emails, and addresses. I did that for an entire year for both of us. And I literally sat down and wrote a handwritten card for every single one. I did that for about 2 years before it was like dozens a month. And then my assistant started doing them. And then now we use send out cards with our like handwritten font. But now we've transitioned to the personal phone call instead, which is going way further too, because nobody gets a phone call, not even from their mom anymore. Even my parents, half the time, most of like our parents, our family, they send us a Facebook message or they text us or WhatsApp us. But like, so whenever I call people now, people literally answer with a smile and laughing, and they're like, gosh, you're always so good at remembering, even before I've said hi. And so those little things have made our sphere of influence massive. That is a big percentage of our business and our repeat clients, referrals. Like I have so many people now that have come back to us for 3, 4, 5, 6 transactions that have referred multiple times to us. And there's no shadow of a doubt of trust because they've experienced all of our team. I'm even now having them work with my agents instead of myself when they come back. But the trust is there because they're getting that across the board. So sphere of influence is a massive one that don't go to any paid lead sources until you're doing that is what I would say. I mean, back when Kirby and I were first starting, a lot of the Trulia Zillows were so much, it was almost like free or cheap, very, very cheap, because they hadn't figured out how much they could take from the agent until now. And so any of the listing stuff, you basically got your listing leads if you were working them. And so we worked those super hard. 2011, I think towards the end of it, it was October 2011, we started up with our first Tiger lead, which was previously, well, it was bought out by Commissions Inc. And I thought Kirby was crazy when he convinced us to pay $3,000 a month. I mean, I came from a nonprofit salary, and it was like, oh my gosh, we're going to pay. And I was like, there's, buying leads was even, I mean, the world has changed so quickly now. It's like back then it was like brand new. And I thought it was like, we talked to people who were using it, and I thought they were making stuff up. Like, you just buy these things on the internet, and it's real human beings that are going to give you their information. But we tried it, and it worked. I mean, I will never forget the moment we got our first lead. We were out camping, and I was like, do I call him? And he was like, well, yeah. And it was like, I had no training, no coaching, but I called. It was like 8 p.m., dark in the night, camping, and I'm sitting there on my phone. So that's how it started with that, with Commissions Inc. type of stuff. But I worked them, and I sold 60, Tiger lead, but Commissions Inc. sales, by myself as my own ISA, my own buyer's agent, and my own everything in 2012. Toward the middle to end of 2012 is when we hired our first showing agent, because I was really pregnant by then. But so those are the two main things we did, with sphere of influence, three. Sphere of influence, worked the listing leads we had, which isn't as easy anymore now. And then the Tiger lead stuff.
Yeah. And everyone can take that strategy for the next 2 years and commit to go through their personal Facebook every day for 2 years. And probably, when you think about it, probably get 1,000 people, meaningful relationships into their database with permission. I'm thinking, I mean, everyone's like, seems to have 1,000 friends at least. I mean, I have like 4,800 or something, quote unquote friends. That's awesome. That is like worth the admission for this podcast, which is free. So I guess that was not
but it's so true though. I mean, our new agents will come, whether they're brand new or experienced, and I'm like, okay, let's put together your sphere of influence list. Can you bring it next week? And they'll have like 14 names or 34. I thought, and I'm like, really? Let's go to your Facebook page. What are all these other 400 people? Even if all you have is 400, at least 100 of them have to like you. I mean, really, like actually know your name and like you. You can't have gone through college and high school and not have at least 100 people that know you and like you, even if every single one is your family member and their family member and your cousins. I mean, people, it's like they feel like, well, I can only add people that are going to probably buy, that would for sure use me. And if they know any other agent, then they're probably not going to use me. And that mindset is the wrong one. I just always viewed it as, if they like me, why wouldn't they trust me? I'm trustworthy. I'm going to kick butt for anybody that talks to me. I'm going to deliver for them. And if you believe that, there's no reason you wouldn't want them to get your marketing, to know that you're available to them, because people aren't going to just remember if you're not constantly exposing yourself to them. Yeah. So we've developed over the years, how do we do that? Well, it's the birthday calls, it's their house anniversary calls. Like I just did one today on the drive here, and I was like, can you believe it's been 5 years? And I found out they have an 8-month-old baby now, things like that, and make sure that they're coming to our Pictures with Santa event. This is going to be our second year doing that one, but it's phenomenal. We just had our pie giveaway. We started off, I think, with like 50 people at our first one. We've been doing this for like 5 or 6 years now, and we give away 530 pies, and had an affiliation with everybody that wrote a thankfulness note on our thankfulness wall. We donated 5 meals to feed my starving children. So we donated over 2,600 meals as a part of our pie giveaway this year. And then we do a Saints game. It's kind of like minor league baseball here, but super fun. Like they just make it super fun. We do a barbecue. Started off at a barbecue at a park that grew and grew. And now last year we had over 600 people that came. And we're reserving 1,000 tickets this year to that. Our goal was by the end of 2020 to have 1,000. So we can reserve 1,000 and go down to 500, but we're probably going to end this year at like 750 for that event. And that's all because of the consistent events, consistent marketing, and you slowly grow it. And now it's like these events become part of people's plans. And it's so fun to see that. Like, they're like, I love your pie. Now I don't have to cook, or, things like that. It's just those little tiny things that make them feel valued. Yeah. And we always get more referrals around the time of events because people remember you more.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's transition a bit. Talk about some of the times that were just I don't think the failures in building a business are shared very often. It's not your proudest moment. You're not going to go on Facebook and post those tough times. What are
Hmm.
some of the tough times, the failures, maybe the moments of truth where it really was heavy and it was challenging, and how'd you push through?
I think the hardest have been, I would say, our marriage. I mean, being in business together was exceedingly difficult at several times, dealing with super high levels of stress when we were both highly in production and with babies. And we went through marriage counseling for about 3 years really regularly. Now we just go for maintenance when we need it. But we're very intentional in our strategies. And it took us a while to figure out how to appreciate the differences in each other's roles. And now we really are each kind of in our right box, if you want to put it that way, in the accountability chart, thriving in our strengths. Whereas I think initially we were a little bit competitive or not understanding the strength that each other was bringing. So with whatever business partner you have, if you're ever going to grow a team, you're going to have that like kind of a visionary integrator, kind of concept. That's going to be a really important piece to figure out and do what it takes. If you found the right person to do it with, do what it takes to figure it out, because it's not easy or natural, because each of us have strong opinions on things. But I think when you add it to like a marital dynamic and you add it with like a family dynamic and it's invading your evenings, that was exceedingly stressful. Some of the lowest points we've ever had. It makes it, who cares how much money you make if like your marriage is at stake? That's the hardest thing in the world. So we're almost 10 years married now and almost 9 years in business together. And I can say that I don't think our marriage has ever been stronger, even though we still have conflict. Now we have healthy conflict, and we also know how to work through it because we've gone through the painful investment in figuring it out and getting a lot of coaching, counseling to figure that out.
Yeah.
The other, I think, most challenging aspects have been trying to figure out how do you hire the right people. I think that we both are the type of people that just believe the best in people. So you interview them, you try to do the best screening process. And then sometimes you get screwed. And that sucks on multiple levels. And I mean, we've just gone through this, I would say, over the last 6 months with someone that we thought was a key hire, and it wasn't the right fit, and it wasn't the right match. And also we've had that a lot with different agents or even assistants or things like that. And across the board, having the more you have the clarity at the onset, the more clear your conversations. And the times that I've felt the most screwed is when I didn't listen to my gut and I didn't have those conversations earlier. Those accountability, those crucial conversations are super hard. So I would definitely give the advice of that book of Crucial Conversations, listen to it, and start to use it. Go through the discomfort of it. It's so painful at the onset. Like I would role play with Kirby, I'd role play with Bonnie, our other leader. I'd like sweat it out. But now I can actually do those pretty effectively because I care. Now I'm not just focusing on how uncomfortable the conversation is for me. I'm focusing on the fact that if I don't have this crucial conversation earlier than not with this person, they're not going to succeed anyway. And if I feel like they're not going to succeed and I'm not telling them, and then 2 months later we part ways, what could they have done otherwise? And I have seen people, it's like we've had those conversations and I'm like, you're going this way, we need you to go this way. But if this isn't where you want to go, let's just have a friendly conversation, because I want you to go where you want to go. But on our team, this is where you need to go, not here. And this isn't working. And now, like people, it's really clear. People are like, oh yeah, no, I do want to go this way. Let me make the adjustments. And then, maybe a month later, you're like, well, you're here, which is better than here. This is still where we need you to go. And then slowly, I mean, some people can make the shift right away, but it's not perfect with people. So part of it is, identifying right person, right seat, and also giving them some grace with very clear guidance. Because I've at the end of the day had to step back and be like, are we giving the right direction and guidance to these people, or assuming they can read our minds and be us? And if it's not the first one, then the responsibility falls on me to at least have the clarity there, and more than once. The thing we hate, but it's so true, is it takes 7 times for them to hear it once. And so just because we've said it once or it's in the job description doesn't mean people get it, because it's so innate in us that we've built this. We know what it takes to do it, and they have to learn it. And we forget, hey, how many years of screw-ups did I do before I learned how to talk to leads better? How much coaching? I mean, I remember a scripts coach making me cry once because he told me that the way that I was doing sucked so bad, and that's why nobody was showing up or something. But he was entirely right, and I made the adjustments, and then now I'm coaching people better. I try to not make them cry and say it a little more lovingly, but you need to hear truth sometimes to get better. So
that's awesome. One thing business owners really across the board struggle with is enjoying the ride. What do you do to make sure that you're going to enjoy not just the business growth, the personal development stuff, but really enjoying your marriage, your children, your hobbies, or like, how do you make sure that this whole, maybe there are times where you didn't, but how do you enjoy the ride?
Yeah, I mean, I think I try to really figure out what are the things that I care about the most. And I think it's a little different for Kirby and I, but then I try to make sure we're celebrating those. Like the fact that we've broken 400 sales, we've been working for 3 years to break that, but building a team isn't easy, and we've made a lot of mistakes to that. The fact that we not only broke 400, but are already at 446 is amazing. And I am hugely celebrating it. If we don't hit exactly 450, I don't care, because it takes a lot to break 400 sales, and it took us a lot. And I don't care if there's other people that are crushing us. We broke a ceiling we had, and I'm so proud of that. And I'm extra proud of that because we consciously did not allow ourselves to fall back into production to save the day, like we've done so many times in the past. And what that did is it allowed our team to succeed and us to show up at our best, because we were intentionally investing in the team instead of just continuing to save the day and going through that cycle. So that's huge for me. And now that I get to see my agents and my team and sit down and be like, okay, last quarter we talked about this being your rock. How'd it go? Dude, I paid off all my credit card bills. That kind of stuff gives me all the joy in the world. You took your daughter to Disneyland like you've always dreamed of when you had even daycare on credit card bills last year. You rock, and it's because you did it and you rose up to the job. And the fact that we're providing these pathways, these runways for people to be able to thrive, which is my driving passion, that's what I'm focusing on. I mean, I need money. Everybody needs money, but I don't really care as much about how much money we bring in. I want to be profitable. I really do care about that. But what makes me excited, what gets me up every day, is like the Allie's taking her daughter to Disneyland, and not on credit cards. Not like if I made an extra $100,000 that year. I mean, sure, it's cool, but that doesn't satisfy long term.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. I'm going to throw some just rapid fire questions at you. So give me the first thing that pops into your head.
All right.
What keeps you up at night when it comes to your business?
Right person, right seat.
What were you?
Do we have the right people?
Yep. What were you most afraid of when building a real estate team?
Failure, that people wouldn't trust us if it wasn't just us in our faces, us personally dealing with things, or that I would constantly have to save the day, which is probably a self-glorified feeling. But
yeah. What's the best advice you've ever received about business?
If you're not growing, you're dying. Always learn, always seek coaching, always get better.
Awesome. What's one of your personal daily or weekly habits that you think contributes to your success?
I exercise every day, and I listen to books when I'm exercising. My relationship with God and prayer is really important. And then other than that, never letting my email be my priority, not dominate my time. One touch, be very efficient, allow us for time to be dedicated to the things that matter. Awesome. I think in real estate, email is the death of people.
Awesome. 2 more questions. If you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
I'd probably focus on building the team sooner and faster, but sometimes you need to get to certain volumes to be able to afford people too. But I think if I would have been more aware of what kind of a mom or whatever, what do I want to be 5 years from now versus today, I think I might have been more strategic in that. Kirby has more of that kind of a mindset. One of his strengths is futuristic. And I'm a little bit more activator, like today. So it's a good match for us. But I think that I would have done that and been like, where do I really want to be in 5 or 10 years? What kind of a person do I want to be? How do I want to give to people? And if at the end of the day, giving to just sales and clients is it, well, cool. But I care about building people up to become the best they can be. And that I can do that through other people. I don't have to directly be the one servicing the client anymore.
Yeah, awesome. A lot of people, I believe our industry is broken in a lot of ways, and a lot of people are struggling in a lot of ways, financially, with time, in relationships, physically, spiritually. What advice do you have or just some words of encouragement for someone that it's not clicking for them right now, but real estate is where they need to be?
I would say get the right coaching and clarity and have a plan. A quote I just heard yesterday that really resonated with me is preparation is the key to flexibility. So you have to prepare and you have to plan if you want to get to where you want to go. And then you have to persevere and you have to have some adaptability in that. Because very often, like, you think you're going a certain direction and it just bombs. And if you view it as failure, I always feared failure. And Kirby's been a great, helpful person for me in breaking through it and viewing it as learning. Like, what can I learn from it to get to the next level? Maybe we thought this was like the coolest thing. It didn't work out, or for us, or at this time. What else can we do that is going to get us to our end goal? Don't get tied to the process, get tied to the end result. And whatever it looks like in that messy middle, persevere, because if you always stick to where you want to go and have a clear vision in that, even if it has to adapt like over time, don't get stuck on the failures in the process, because you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing it to other people.
Yeah, for sure.
It's extra harder.
Cristina, this has been awesome. You know, you know, knowing you guys and being a little part of your journey and just seeing how much you guys have achieved. It's freaking awesome. So I know you've got lots to do, and Real Estate B School thanks you. The listeners, thank you. There's some good stuff in here. I wrote down 3 things that I'm going to have my team do just from your call here. So we appreciate you, and thanks so much.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the thoughts. I'm curious what your 3 things are.
Yeah, well, I already have an email open for Kirby to get the details on the Picks with Santa. And then I've never read Crucial Conversations, and it's been recommended to me a dozen times. And there's at least one other. Oh, the birthdays, Facebook birthdays. So everyone
can't tell you how much it means to people.
Yep, that's super awesome. So appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.